big story was inflation this week, specifically the new CPI report for September that we got this morning. And for the first time in a long time, the numbers finally started to reflect what we've been seeing in real time as far as rent starting to slow down. A huge chunk of inflation comes from a survey question where homeowners kind of guess what their home could rent for. And, let's be honest, people tend to think their home's worth more than it is. This week, that part of the report finally started to move lower. And that's a big deal because Shelter's been doing most of the heavy lifting, as far as keeping inflation higher. Both headline and core CPI came in slightly better than expected. So inflation, still a little hotter than we'd like month to month, but we're seeing progress and that's what matters. And markets like that. We also saw more signs of a very cautious and kind of confused market because we're seeing buyers holding back, waiting for even lower rates, and sellers are seeming to hold firm, but we are seeing concessions and price reductions becoming more and more common. And inventories finally starting to creep towards something that at least resembles normal. That's nationwide anyways, not necessarily here in San Diego. But it's creating a standoff. Basically, everyone's waiting for the other side to blink. Meanwhile, housing activity continues to move in the right directions. We saw existing home sales up, not necessarily a huge jump, but solid, especially considering that that's people who were shopping when rates were higher in July and August. And we also saw more first-time buyers showing up and investors and cash buyers still being a good-sized percentage of buyers. And a really important development coming for LLPAs, that's loan level pricing adjustments, which make rents higher, or I should say rates higher, interest rates on mortgages higher depending on credit score, down payment, property type, and other things. And they're under review right now by the FHFA. And if changes are made, that could directly reduce borrowing costs for a lot of home buyers. Big shout out to Barry Habib with MBS Highway for pushing that forward. But we have also seen fuel costs drop to some of their lowest levels since the pandemic, and cheaper oil tends to bring inflation down across the board, and that'll help rates too. And yes, the government shutdown does continue on, which just means fewer economic reports for markets to react to. And weirdly enough, so far that's kind of kept things calmer for now. But I'll be back next Friday with news on the Fed meeting, but not much other news slated for now. Have a great weekend.